This was supposed to be done by last Wednesday, but chaos, life, a collaboration commitment, and a Decoy journal said otherwise. And honestly, with Thaddeus P. Gearwright involved, nothing ever goes according to plan. Especially when secret pockets are part of the story. Today, we're adding a few more layers of misdirection to the Steampunk Traveler's Folio, with hidden pockets, secret documents, and a passport or two built from scraps, stealth, and the Gothic Steampunk kit by SherlsCrafts for the ongoing collaboration. Stick around to see how I built it, and maybe steal a few ideas for your next journal. Harley won't tell if you don't. Hi, it's time once again for coffee, crafting, and cats with the Ginger Cat Lady. I'm Pam, and Harley is currently under investigation for knocking over the internet router during a very crucial upload. True story, friends. Welcome back. Today is all about turning scraps and stealth into style. We're diving back into Thaddeus' Steampunk Traveler's Folio to add handmade ephemera and a hidden pocket hack that would make even the Ministry of Steam raise an eyebrow. Let's get started. To make these gear charms, I started by layering 3 of the same die cut together, gluing them one on top of the other to build up some structure. It gives the gears that chipboard feel without the bulk and makes them way more durable for interactive pieces like flaps and pockets or even dangles. Once they were dry, I painted them with Aura Metacrylic metallic paints. The finish is absolutely gorgeous in person. It's got just enough shine to catch the light, but still feels kind of grungy and vintage, if that makes any sense. Honestly, this is one of those techniques that looks way fancier than it is, and it's a great way to use up those extra die cuts from earlier projects. I'll definitely be making more of these. I started by stamping some gears randomly on the back of panel 1. At first, I went with antique linen, just a whisper of gears, subtle enough that Thaddeus wouldn't raise an eyebrow. But about an hour later, they'd completely disappeared. Apparently too subtle even for him. So I grabbed my tea dye and restamped the whole thing. Now the gears are still understated, but at least they won't vanish into thin air, like one of his experiments. The fussy cut gear cluster came from one of the pages in Sherl's kit. I didn't have to layer or build anything, just cut it out and let the design do the work. I did add a few brads though, just to give it that extra dimensional touch. It makes the cluster feel a little more interactive, like the gears could actually turn if you poke them the right way. It's a quick detail, but it helps tie everything together with the rest of the folio, especially when you've already got metallic paints and that whole time-worn steampunk feel going. To finish off the gear clusters, I added just a touch of gold around the edges. I used my finger to lightly rub it on. Nothing precise, just enough to catch the light and make the edges stand out. It gives the whole thing a worn metallic finish, like these gears have been handled 100 times or salvaged from some long-forgotten machine. It's subtle, but it adds so much richness to the final piece. For the front cover, I wanted it to feel like a well-traveled artifact, something that's been handled, repaired, and repurposed over time. So I started by tearing pieces from 2 of the background pages in Sherl's kit. The textures and tones were perfect for layering. A little grunge, a little mystery, and tearing instead of cutting gave it that raw, time-worn edge right from the start. I added a die-cut corner embellishment and painted it with Aura Metacrylic metallic paints to give it that aged brass patina, something you'd expect to find bolted onto a piece of salvaged equipment. After that, I spent way too long auditioning Ephemera for the focal cluster. I wanted just the right balance of symmetry and steampunk chaos. It had to look like it belonged there, but also like Thaddeus might have slapped it together in a rush while dodging ministry agents or something. I crumpled 2 of the paper pieces slightly before inking, just enough to give them that soft wrinkled texture. Then I used vintage Folio to hit those creased areas and make them pop like old leather or parchment that's been folded and unfolded 100 times. And off camera, I took the train label and roughed up the edges with scissors after inking it. Just a little detail, but it adds to the story, like it was ripped off a cargo manifest or peeled from a travel dossier mid-escape. Then I brought in Thaddeus's monogram. I fussy cut the emblem and edged with indigo purple Aura Metacrylic paint. That color adds just the right contrast against all the browns and bronzes and gives it this slightly regal, slightly questionable quality, which feels very on brand for Thaddeus. Altogether, it gives the top flap just enough personality to feel important, like it's guarding something or concealing something he doesn't want the ministry to find. To add a little drama to the top flap, I started by gluing down 4 small gears in the corner. It's a simple detail, but it ties the flap in with the rest of the build and makes the whole thing feel more connected, like the gears are part of some larger mechanism hiding beneath the surface. For the envelope labeled "For Your Eyes Only," I wanted to make sure it looked like it belonged in a steampunk field kit. Not too polished, not too clean, but definitely important. So I started by stamping clusters of gears directly onto the file folder background to echo the mechanical chaos Thaddeus always seems to leave in his wake. And yes, some of them came out a little uneven. I tried to fix it, but in true Thaddeus fashion, the more I meddled, the messier it got. So I decided to lean into the look. After all, if this envelope has been tossed into a satchel during a mad dash from the Ministry of Steam, those gears would be a bit wonky too. To secure it, I cut a vertical strip from one of Sherl's papers and turned it into a belly band. The texture and worn blueprint aesthetic felt perfect, like something the ministry discarded after realizing Thaddeus had already stolen the real schematics. Functionally, it holds the envelope in place. But narratively, it signals that this isn't just a casual note tucked away for safekeeping. It's a high-level document meant to stay exactly where it is until the right pair of hands comes along. And even then, only if they know what they're looking for. Now, let's talk about the hidden pocket, because every rogue traveler needs at least one place to stash something off the books. I started with a regular paper bag, but to make it look like something Thaddeus might have swiped from a marketplace in the Northern Gearlands, I gave it a full makeover. I cut off the top and saved it for another project, then sprayed the bottom section with water and crumpled it until it looked convincingly worn, like it had been stuffed in the bottom of a satchel during a hasty escape. Now, right about the time I went to refold the bag so it could sit open inside the folio, Harley staged a full-on craft-a-lanche. Paper flew, supplies scattered, and I'm pretty sure the Ministry of Steam would have considered it sabotage. After a quick cleanup, a bit of feline containment, and a deep breath, I refolded the bag. I then used tea dye and vintage photo distress ink to highlight the crumpled texture. I wanted it to look like old leather, something aged, scuffed, and well-traveled. Then I sprayed it again to soften the ink and blend everything together. The result? A pocket that looks like something straight out of Thaddeus's satchel, aged, smuggled, and full of questionable contents. The next bit might be one of my favorite stealth elements in the entire build. The hidden paperclip disguise. I started with a die-cut top hat embellishment and gave it a quick paint treatment using a mix of Aura Metacrylics metallics, mostly asphalt for that deep weathered base, with a few soft metallic accents blended in to give it a dimensional, forged metal feel. It's not shiny like foil, more like aged iron that's been through at least 3 altercations with the Ministry of Steam. Then I grabbed a scrap of coffee dyed paper, folded it in half, and slid a paper clip onto the fold. At first, I thought I'd just clip it straight onto the paper bag pocket, but the sides of the bag were far too flimsy. So I reinforced the opening with an extra strip of coffee dyed paper, giving it a little more structure and maybe just a whisper of espionage flair. Then I folded the larger piece of paper around the clip, carefully making sure it would cover most of the bag. Once everything was lined up, I glued the paper shut, locking the clip inside like a covert clasp ready to hold classified contents. It's the kind of sneaky detail Thaddeus would absolutely use to conceal a blueprint or a document marked highly suspicious. Handle with paranoia. For this pocket, I wasn't aiming for precision. I was channeling controlled chaos. I started with one of the background pages from Sherl's kit and folded back a corner to create a slanted shape, like someone tried to hide the document in a hurry and bent it mid-escape. To decorate, I added a scrap from Sherl's kit, a little offcut that was too good to toss, and gave it a new purpose. I added that fabulous steampunk top hat, then tucked in some more die-cut gears for a bit of industrial elegance. I then glued the pocket onto the coffee-dyed paper, concealing the paperclip. So while the pocket looks like a regular collage element, it's actually removable and is hiding something much more suspicious underneath. Because this is where Thaddeus has tucked away the paper bag pocket. You know, the one holding his forged documents and not so legal passports. Hiding things in plain sight isn't just a habit for him. It's practically part of his job description. To finish off the hidden paperclip, I added another scrap from Sherl's kit to the back, partly to hide the folded construction and partly to make it feel like its own standalone piece of ephemera. Then I built a small cluster on top just to tie it into the rest of the folio and give it that collected over time feel. And because Thaddeus would never leave a plain surface untouched, I added 2 more torn scraps, one on the front of the paper bag pocket and one on the inner flap of the pocket. Nothing too bold, just enough to suggest the pocket's been reinforced, disguised, or maybe repurposed for something it was definitely not designed to carry. That's the beauty of this folio. Nothing is ever what it seems, and every little piece is carrying more than it lets on. I glued the paper bag pocket onto the flip-up, flip-out section of the folio. Inside the bag, Thaddeus's forged passports, tucked in carefully. I clipped the hidden paperclip element in place over top, making sure it aligned just right. When it's all closed up, it looks like a decorative panel. But open it up, and you've suddenly got access to a very illegal escape plan. To finish the front of Thaddeus's Decoy journal, I built a little cluster, just enough to make it look like a legitimate travel log. You know, the kind you casually toss onto a cafe table in the 1890s without raising any suspicion. I tore a strip from Sherl's beautifully grungy papers to ground the layout, then layered on some passport-style stamps and a miniature stack of luggage I created using OpenArt AI. Because nothing says, definitely not smuggling illegal documents, like an overpacked suitcase. I topped it off with a ticket from the kit, a gear, and a number label, just to make it all feel cataloged and official. Classic misdirection. Draw the ministry's eye to the travel ephemera so they don't go digging for the real story. That's it for today. We added pockets, passports, and a paper bag that's definitely hiding something. Our suspicious steampunk traveler's folio is starting to look very ministry resistant. And if you're ready to meet Thaddeus's infamous feline nemesis / sidekick, Harlington P. Pursworth, you'll want to come back Wednesday. We'll be diving into the Z-fold section of the folio, one side starring our fluffy saboteur, and the other featuring Thaddeus's 3 most determined nemeses. Let's just say, espionage never looked so dramatic. If you enjoyed this, like the video, share it with your favorite rogue engineer, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the finale. And if you missed the secret file folder blueprint we stashed last time, it's right up here. Or dive into the full #Let's Go Steampunk playlist down here to see how the entire time-traveling mystery unfolds. And, as always, may your scraps be endless and your glue never dry. See you in the next one. Bye.